Gentlemen, what's going on? We're gonna pick the perfect bracket in here. We're gonna mess up the YouTube algorithm again. But shout out to Austin, he showed me some dude that made some picks, and his picks were dumb. So we're gonna do the same thing, copy the video, we're gonna go game by game and pick our champion. So I'm watching the first 4 game right here between A&M Corpus Christi and Southeast Missouri State. Both of these teams suck. So Alabama will have no issue with that. Maryland, West Virginia. West Virginia lost a lot of games in that Big 12, but they had great metrics. They had some good wins. Maryland, don't know much about them, honestly. West Virginia, I'll give them the win. San Diego State and Charleston. This one is interesting. Now, first of all, we're going to show how much we don't like the Mountain West here. Actually, I like the Mountain West, but they kind of suck in this tournament. San Diego State is the only hope for the Mountain West in this tournament. But you look at Charleston, they could have had an at-large bid if they didn't win the Southern. If North Carolina actually didn't suck, because that was the only good team that they played the entire season for the most part. They take half their shots are 3-pointers, and San Diego State this year is not that stereotypical defensive team that you would think when it comes to San Diego State. I'm liking Charleston in this one. Charleston will get that win, that upset. Virginia and Furman. Furman's a really good program. I'm surprised they haven't made more tournaments. They've had some good teams over the past 7 years, but they're finally in it. But Virginia is just a different dog. They play probably the worst game to watch on television. They play great defense. Furman, they can score as far as I know. But Virginia, they're great defensively. I'm giving that to Virginia. Creighton, NC State, the thing about Big East teams, man, they are up and down, up and down. Big East teams just have that thing about them, but NC State's terrible. I'm surprised they weren't in the last 4 in, or the first 4. I've got Creighton. Baylor, UC Santa Barbara, there are a few good teams in the Big West. Good thing Santa Barbara got in, but Baylor. Utah State and Missouri. This one's really interesting because both of these teams are very similar. They're not very tall teams. Utah State shoots a ton of threes. And to be honest with you, logic would say that Utah State is the better team. But like I said, I ain't trusting the Mountain West in this one. I'm going for Missouri. Arizona and Princeton, I can't see. Arizona and Princeton. Yeah, I don't have to go on that one. Easy. Going down to the East, Purdue. See, Texas Southern here, they make the tournament every damn year. They play a great schedule. 14 and 20, but they always make the tournament. But Purdue, too strong. This matchup is really interesting. The numbers and the analytics love Florida Atlantic. They've got great metrics. And Memphis is a team where they're up and down too. They're really difficult to gauge most seasons, but this season's probably the best season they've had in a while. And they beat Houston in the American Championship, even though they didn't have their best player. Houston didn't, but I'll go with Memphis. Duke and Oral Roberts, Oral Bobs I want to call them. They got Max Abmas, who was that stud that they had a few years ago that made the Sweet 16. I would pick Oral Roberts against any other 5 seed. They would beat St. Mary's, they'd beat Miami, and I think they'd beat San Diego State, but the committee screwed them here. Too bad. I would have Duke in this one. The problem I have with Duke later on is that since they're such a storied program, they never have to play on the road. And I mean, college basketball teams are not very good on the road anyway, but I worry about this team on neutral sites, especially when they play most of their season in the state of North Carolina. I think there's something like 2-6 this season, or 4-6 this season. Big difference. Or 6-6 this season outside of the state of North Carolina. Yeah, so I'll pick Duke here. Yeah, Tennessee and Louisiana. This is a very interesting one. I don't know much about Louisiana, and I hear Tennessee has a lot of injuries to their guards. You know, and Louisiana's a pretty trendy pick, but I'll stick with Tennessee on this one. Kentucky and Providence. I just don't like Kentucky in the tournament lately. The one and dones have proven lately to be really bad. The anomalies over the previous years have been Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Davis and all those people, John Wall, Devin Booker in the past for Kentucky. They have nowhere near that these days. Providence, they've got a pro on their team. I think his name is Bryce Cameron. Or actually, no, it's not his name. Let me see what his name is. Bryce Hopkins, excuse me. He was a Kentucky transfer that went to Providence. Providence lost their last 3 games of the season. Trending in the wrong direction, but I just don't like Kentucky at all. I'm going for Providence in this one. Kansas, Montana State, don't gotta waste their time. Michigan State, USC. USC, I barely trust in this tournament. West Coast teams, not really going to trust that much in this tournament either. Michigan State, no problem. Marquette, no problem. Going up here, Houston, no problem. Iowa and Auburn. Now, honestly, to be honest with you, I think Iowa is the better team. But they kind of got shafted here because Auburn is playing in Birmingham. So this is basically a home game for Auburn, and I don't think they're that good. They've trended down since the non-conference. I don't really think this is a team that's very good, but I think Auburn will win just for the fact that they're playing in Alabama. Miami and Drake. Now, I don't know much about Drake this season. Neither do I know much about Miami. But to be honest with you, even though Miami's had their ups and downs, and they've lost to some good teams, which is not really a bad thing, I'm gonna go with Miami here, to be honest with you. Now the next one, Kent State and Indiana. Now Indiana I don't trust. Now the problem is, I'm gonna say that I don't trust most teams in this tournament, mainly because it's a crapshoot. But I watched Kent State a few times this season. They played against Houston, and it was probably the worst game I ever saw, unless you like defense. Even though Houston kind of had the tempo of the game, despite the fact that neither team could shoot. But Kent State's a really good team. They gave Houston fits, they gave Gonzaga fits, they gave Charleston fits. So I'm gonna pick Kent State to beat Indiana, because I think they're a good team. Iowa State's gonna roll all over who plays this game. Pittsburgh is not good. Mississippi State may be interesting, but Pitt is terrible. I think they deserve to get in, but they're not very good. Xavier, win. This one's really tough. Texas A&M and Penn State. A&M was second in the SEC, but got a 7 seed, probably because their non-conference schedule probably sucked. But Penn State's playing some great basketball right now, and you know, A&M is the better team, but let's just go with Penn State. I'm not going to waste my time here. Texas, Colgate. Colgate can shoot, but Texas can do everything else. Texas. Kansas, no problem. Arkansas is going to roll all over Illinois. Illinois is not any good, honestly. I don't know what else to say. Arkansas kind of got lost in the media. They were really good early in the season, then they kind of ran into the gauntlet of the SEC. You know, they might have been 8-10 in their conference, but Illinois is not any good. They're not any good. Arkansas is going to destroy them. St. Mary's and VCU. VCU wants to play fast. St. Mary's is kind of like a budget version of Virginia. It seems like every time they get in a tournament, they get a 5 or a 6 seed. I like St. Mary's this time. I think they'll win. UConn and Iona. We got some bias right here because I'm from Connecticut. The problem with this team is that they could win the championship, but they could also lose to Iona. Iona, with Rick Pitino, they've been really good in context since Rick Pitino's been the coach. I think UConn will win this game. And I think they have a really good chance to get very far. I think if UConn wins this game, they automatically get in the Sweet 16. TCU, no problem. These two teams are not very good. Nevada is downtrending, and Arizona State, just don't really like them. They're a buzzer beater away from not being in the tournament. Gonzaga, no problem. Now, Northwestern and Boise State. This one's interesting. Again, I just don't feel the Mountain West in this one. Northwestern has been trending down. They're on second in the Big Ten. They were playing really, really well. Then they weren't. I'm still going to pick them. But Boise State may be the better team. But I'm just going to have the anti-Mountain West bias here. And UCLA, no problem. Now we go to the second round. Alabama. West Virginia's played some really good basketball against good teams. Haven't really beaten all those teams, but Alabama's just too good, man. Unless Brandon Miller gets locked up, there's no way. Virginia. See, the problem with this game is that if Virginia's defense does not work out, they'll struggle to score. I mean, the problem with this team is that if Virginia's leading by 7, for example, they play so slow and they control the tempo so well that being up 7 means, or feels like they're up 16. But if they're down, they struggle to score still. So being down 7 may also mean that they're down 15. Could be a reason why they lost to UMBC a few seasons ago. But I've still got Virginia because I just don't think Charleston has the type of skill to be able to deal with Virginia's defense. Creighton, Baylor, both of these teams are very wishy-washy, honestly. I don't trust Baylor whatsoever, but I think they got a good matchup. I think Baylor wins this game. Missouri and Arizona. Arizona, I don't think it has a problem there. Houston and Auburn. I think I went down before. Let's just stay here. This is a very difficult one because, again, right now we don't know what the status is of Marcus Saucer, Houston's best player, right? The groin injury he suffered in the semifinal of the American. Compound that with Auburn. This game's in Alabama. This is a home game. Now, again, I don't think Auburn's any good. I don't think Auburn's a good team, but they're playing in Alabama, and Houston, we don't know what's going on with Marcus Saucer. And I like Houston, and I really hope that they make the Final Four and win the championship. And I think if they win this game, they will at least get to the Elite Eight, and they may get to the Final Four and win the damn thing. But I'm going to pick Auburn because, number one, the game is in Alabama, and number two, we don't know if Marcus Saucer is 100%. And I hate to make this pick because this will radiate throughout the bracket, because this is a really easy bracket, in my opinion, for Houston until they would play Texas. Miami, Kent State. I think Kent State can win this game, but for no other reason. But I don't know if they can win more than one game. I'll pick Miami. Iowa State and Xavier. Where's this game? North Carolina. Iowa State's really bad on the road, and I don't think they're very good on neutral site. I don't trust Xavier worth a bit, honestly, but just because Iowa State, in my opinion, is not very good outside of Iowa, I'll pick Xavier. I think the hot streak ends for Penn State. Texas wins. Purdue and Memphis. I would love for Purdue to lose this game. I hate Zach Edey. He's a great player, but I just hate hearing about him. 7-4 and dominating. I just hate hearing about him. But I'll pick Purdue. Duke, Tennessee. Tennessee again missing part of that backcourt. I don't think it's an issue for Duke at all. Providence, Kansas State. Kansas State don't have an issue there. Michigan State, Marquette. Now I don't really believe in Marquette. I really don't. I've got two anti-biases in the Big East and the Mountain West. Marquette got hot at the end of the season. I think they've won like 16 to 17 or something. They weren't great in the non-conference, but that was in November, I guess. This game's in Ohio. I don't think Michigan State's really all that good. So for that, I'll pick Marquette. Kansas, this will be a tough game, but I think Kansas will win this game. UConn, I just do not think St. Mary's can slow UConn down. I think UConn will win that game. TCU, Gonzaga. TCU's a bit too fluctuated, that's the right word. I think Gonzaga, I don't really believe in them either. But Gonzaga, I think, will win this game. UCLA, no issue against Northwestern. Now we're in the Sweet 16. Alabama, Virginia. Virginia's a really good team, but I just don't think they'll slow down Alabama. I think they'll win that game. Baylor, Arizona, don't trust these teams at all, but I think Arizona just by default will win this game. Auburn, Miami, again, I don't think Auburn's any good, plus the game is in Kansas City, so they're no longer going to be able to get the luxury of playing in Alabama. I think Miami just by default wins this game. This bracket is a mess. It really is. You better hope that Houston's Marcus Sasser, I think I've said his name wrong the entire time. You better hope he's good, because if he's not, this bracket's going to be a mess. Like, Auburn and Miami don't deserve to be here. Xavier, Texas, I think, is too good. Purdue and Duke. This one is tough because Purdue smashed Duke earlier this season. But I just don't like Purdue. Duke has that big man Flipowski, if I know his name, whatever it is. I'll just pick Duke. I'm picking Duke just because I've heard some doubt about the guards of Purdue. If they get pressured, which I don't know if Duke plays that game, but that's what it'd be. Kansas State, Marquette. Marquette can win this game. I don't like Kansas State really, but I think Kansas State will win this game. I just don't think Marquette is a real contender. Kansas, UConn. Now this is very tough. UConn is not lost in the non-conference yet. Once they got in the Big East play, it kind of got interesting for them. I really think this UConn team has the roster that has the potential to be legendary, like the Kemba Walker and Napier Boatwright era, and the Hamilton Elamine Allen era, or the Okafor Boone, era as well. I know I'm being a homer. I think UConn is going to win this game. I think just playing non-conference teams, UConn has been excellent. UCLA, Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga's probably the better team, but they really haven't showed me that. And with UCLA, I'm not too sure if the Pac-12 really put them up to this moment, but I'll pick UCLA. Now we're in the Elite Eight. Alabama, Arizona. I'm not going to waste my time here. Arizona, if they were in a tougher bracket, probably would have lost a lot earlier. Alabama. Duke, Kansas State. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I've got Duke. Not going to explain why, I don't know. Miami and Texas. Miami is here only because of the uncertainty of Houston's status with Marcus Sasser. So, Texas, it is. UConn, UCLA. I understand this is out west, and this game is in Las Vegas, but, who knows. UConn has gotten to the Final Four or has won championships mainly from being put out west. I think UConn's size is just too much. Their players are too dynamic. They have a really high ceiling, but they can also screw up. But I'm picking UConn to go to the Final Four. I just think they match up well with UCLA. Alabama, Duke. I think we're gonna go with Alabama here, honestly. They're just good. And Texas, UConn, listen, this is a really tough game. And what Texas would do without, or with their interim coach, would be excellent. And again, this is in Houston, right? Basically a de facto home game for Texas. I'd go with Texas. And Alabama, Texas. This one is a toughie. Obviously, we need to finish the video now because we've gone too far. But I'm just gonna go with location here. Alabama is probably the best team in the country, and Texas is probably a dumb pick, but we're gonna go with Texas. I did not think of this before going in, and I think this will be a quite close game. I think it'll be an offensive game. I think 76-71 is a good score. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Texas is going to be your national champion. But it's tough because I think if Houston will win, if their best player is okay, they can win a de facto road game against Auburn. If they win this game, they go to the Final Four. I think they're better than Texas. I think if Houston wins this game, they probably go to the championship game. So butterfly effect that is. So there's Final Four: Alabama, Duke, Texas, UConn. That's what it'd be. No outro.